Player 1 wins. Double or nothing.
Pause. Player 1's major win made Player 2 falsely believe that they had a better chance at winning, in turn making them spend more.
Casinos use many tactics like this to keep people spending money and playing games.
They also use people's gambling addictions and psychology against them to make more profit.
Today we'll be going into depth about gambling, addictions, and how casinos use those against you in order to keep you spending money and stay there longer.
Bright lights, upbeat music, and temptations of wins. These are some of the tactics that casinos use to draw you in, and they use methods to keep you spending your money like...
They don't have a clock in sight. This forces people to rely on their watches or phones, making it very easy for people to lose track of time. When you think about it, you'd be able to do just about anything for a very long time if you had no idea what time it is. This makes it so there's no way of telling if you've been somewhere and doing something for 20 minutes or 3 hours.
Along with no clocks, there's little to no view of the outside world. Casinos often have a dark tint on windows, so you can't see the sun's place in the sky, if it's even there at all. And by the time you realize what time it is, it's already been hours.
Casinos also use a fun little trick where they give you free alcohol. Of course, you'd want to stay at a place with free drinks, money, and games. As you all know, alcohol can severely hinder the ability to make reasonable decisions. What money casinos lose from giving out free alcohol is made up from poor decision-making ability as you put more and more of your money into gambling.
Why, reasonably, would you spend so much money on a card game, for example? Well, you wouldn't. Instead, you spend chips. You've all seen them, right? They're colorful little discs. You still have to pay for them, but they hardly feel of value when you're betting them on games. So, of course, this makes you feel a lot more inclined to spend money when it doesn't feel like money.
You want to go to the bathroom in a casino? Good luck finding one. Because of the layout casinos have, it's very difficult to find a bathroom in it. So you have to venture often a lot deeper into the casino. And when you're venturing along the way, you're going to see a bunch of distractions like games and bars along the way. They're going to try and pull you in and entice you into doing it. So you're either going to do it before you go to the bathroom or you're going to come back right after you go.
Just like the restrooms, the entire casino is like a maze. This is credited to the maze-like design. As you try to maneuver through a casino, there's no straight shot to anything. Games are placed strategically throughout the labyrinth of a casino in curving paths to catch your attention. If you're trying to leave, it's very likely that a game would catch your attention. And not to mention, if you get lost, you might as well stay a little longer. Perhaps just play one more game, right?
On the rare occasion that someone hits the jackpot, there's a huge celebration held in the casino. This gives onlookers the false sense that they could be the next jackpot winner too. So this makes them subconsciously spend more money and place more bets.
There's also loyalty programs, and they offer benefits for people who gamble a lot. The reward needs certain requirements to be obtained, and typically you must spend a lot of money. And this makes it feel less painful when you lose money because you're getting rewards in return.
Gambling is definitely prominent in the Percy Jackson film, where they get stuck at a casino for 3 days at a time, unknowingly.
As you can see in this clip right here, the waitresses are offering the main characters these lotus flowers. These flowers are drugs disguised as food, and casinos often give their customers drugs and substances to make them stay longer and cloud their judgment.
And from the clip, as you may be able to tell, there's not a single window or clock in sight. This is also another tactic used, shown very well in the clip.
As you can see here, they're having tons of fun as they're completely under the influence. More of the flowers are offered, which is a nod to the round after round of free alcohol.
Now that we have told you some of the ways casinos draw in gamblers, what do you think another tactic not mentioned, might be?
Adam Feldman from Medical News Today states that an addiction is an inability to stop using a substance or a behavior, even though it might cause you physical or psychological harm.
Audrey, what are some of the symptoms of addiction?
Well, Chloe, some of the symptoms of addiction include declining effort at work or school, poor performance at daily tasks, relationship difficulties, and overall defensiveness.
And people with an addiction don't usually care what happens in their life as long as they get to feel their addiction. And that's because the brain changes with addiction, so it makes it harder to stop.
That's right, Chloe. According to the National Institute of Health, there are pleasure and reward circuits in the brain. And normally things like working out and sleeping can fulfill these. But when you have an addiction, it starts to rewire these circuits and makes your addiction fulfill these instead.
With addictions, there are two types, substance and non-substance. Substance includes drugs and alcohol, and non-substance includes gambling, food, internet, gaming, etc.
We're going to dig a little deeper into gambling addiction.
Gambling generally sounds harmless, except when it becomes harmful when it becomes an addiction. According to Mayo Clinic, a gambling addiction is the uncontrollable urge to keep gambling despite the toll it may take on your life.
Yeah, Audrey, gambling can be extremely tempting. It's easy to keep placing bets or gambling more and more at the chance to keep winning. For a lot of people, this hooks them in and they can't stop.
Not only can gambling lead to extreme financial loss, it can also lead to many negative psychological, physical, and social effects.
Denise Mary Griswold with the Recovery Village states that as of 2022, these effects are felt by 10 million Americans with a gambling disorder, but only 20% of these people think that their gambling was problematic. That means that 79% believed that their addiction wasn't a problem.
A gambling addiction is also often associated with mental health disorders. People addicted to gambling often have substance misuse problems, personality disorders, and depression, and other anxiety-related problems. According to Rick Benson, this is because the thrill of gambling activates the brain reward system, releasing adrenaline and endorphins, even when the gambler is losing.
Exactly. Gambling can be fun, but too much of it can cause the brain to become conditioned to it and constantly need that dopamine hit to trigger the reward system. Without this stimulation, the brain will feel depleted. What chemicals are not released when the brain's reward system is activated?
Yeah. Dopamine, adrenaline, and endorphins are all chemicals that are released when the brain's reward system activates. This creates stimulating effects and feelings that you're euphoric. They often keep gamblers gambling in casinos.
A gambling addiction only becomes a true addiction and a problem when the urge to gamble starts to interfere with daily life, such as finances, relationships, and the workplace.
According to Medical News Today, gambling addiction is especially dangerous because tendencies to one addiction puts you at higher risk to developing another addiction, like an addiction to drugs or alcohol.
Why does gambling happen?
Well, Claire, it's not really that well understood. Researchers believe it may be caused by a combination of biological, genetic, and environmental factors.
We also know, like any addiction, it's not easy to quit. It can be almost impossible to use willpower to suppress the urge to gamble. And yet there are still some treatments that can help support the treatment of gambling addictions.
Medical News Today also explains that support from therapy, medications, and self-help groups help people with a gambling addiction. Over time, behavior therapy can reduce the urge to gamble by systematically exposing the addicted to the behavior, but in small quantities. Cognitive behavior therapy helps change the way an individual feels and thinks about gambling. Also, medications such as mood stabilizers and antidepressants may help reduce the urge to gamble.
In theory, an addiction to gambling is an addiction to risk-taking, and casinos use this against you by having short games that have an even shorter result outcome telling you. Also, with high risk, high reward situations that players are allowed to bet on.
Risk-taking behavior is any behavior that has the potential to end negatively. This can include anything from trying new food to bungee jumping. It's a typical behavior seen in people of all ages, and there are many different factors that can contribute to why someone might take a risk. Ultimately, everyone has their own reasons for why they might take a risk. And while some risks may be more worth it than others, it's finally up to the individual to decide what they're comfortable with and what they believe is worth pursuing.
While there are some positive aspects to taking risks, such as feeling alive and gaining new experiences, there are also some potential and probable negative consequences. This can include physical harm, financial loss, or damage to one's reputation. It's important to weigh the pros and cons of a potential risk before taking it.
The main cause that makes people partake in risk-taking behavior is someone who enjoys risk-taking. And these people are often called thrill seekers. Even though it is often a benefit to taking these risks, thrill seekers still do it. And often these thrill seekers have an addiction to the adrenaline. This is because when you usually release adrenaline, it's when your body's in danger. The hormones sharpen your senses and create this rush feeling. The thrill seekers get an addiction to this rush and seek it out the same way a drug addict would seek out an illegal drug. Regulus 2019.
Some other causes that make people partake in risk-taking include peer pressure, substance abuse, parents' behavior, adolescence, and wanting to prove something to oneself or others.
Casinos abuse these traits of risk-taking by using them against you. For example, when you get a win, adrenaline is released and it will help make you feel satisfied or really happy, and this will then push you to keep gambling.
Due to all of this, you feel as if you're on top of the world. You have faith in yourself to win again, and even if you are risking more for a slight chance at a better outcome.
Another thing that casinos use is substance abuse by offering free drinks and possibly a drug to cloud your judgment. Substances are known to make you take more risks and are often related to gambling. This is because your body and mind aren't in the right place, and you're more likely to take risks and otherwise do something that you usually wouldn't do.
Now, let's think about how we can use this information.
Gambling has the potential to become an impactful addiction, which in most cases negatively impacts people's lives.
It's very easy for casinos to use these tactics to make you act in ways that benefit them and make them more money.
In this speech, we went into depth about casino tactics, gambling addiction, and the psychology behind addiction.
Be mindful when gambling and make sure to keep your mind, money, and mood safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.